Today's readings bring up a topic that we rarely talk about, but that we face on quite a frequent basis, and that is the question of fraternal correction. Do we have an obligation before the Lord to correct somebody who is committing a sin? And the answer is very simple. Yes, we do. We see it in both of our big readings today. Ezekiel, who was appointed watchman by the Lord tells him, if I tell you to say something to someone and you don't warn him, I will hold you accountable for his death. And then Jesus says, if your brother sins against you, point it out to him. So yes, we do have a responsibility of offering fraternal correction. And in fact, one of the spiritual works of mercy is to admonish the sinner. So while we have that obligation to do so, it right away contradicts what a lot of people in our society would think today. In fact, it puts us at odds with them, because there are two common feelings that are prevalent in our society today which would tell us not to do that. One is relativism, the idea that many people hold that there is no such thing as objective right and wrong. Sin is what I decide sin is. So truth is my truth. What's true for me may not be true for you. So therefore they would say to us, don't tell me what I'm doing is wrong. That may be wrong for you, but it's not wrong for me. And secondly, the need for affirmation. That it seems today that the only way that a lot of people think we can love somebody else is to affirm them in what they're doing. So don't tell me that what I'm doing is a sin. And if you tell me what I'm doing is sinful, well, you're not understanding my needs, you're not affirming me, therefore you're hate-filled and you're being discriminatory, and they work to try to silence us. And of course, the gospel is quite opposite. The Lord did not say that. No, there is objective truth. There is right and wrong that binds all people. And that is determined not by the human mind. In fact, that's what original sin was. Eating the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil was trying to decide for myself what is right and wrong. So I don't have to listen to God. If I think it's right, if I feel it's right, then it's okay. And that's what brought sin into the world. Jesus, by his obedience to the Father, reversed all of that. So therefore, there is a proper obedience to God. And truth, there is truth. Truth can't contradict other truth. And truth is determined not by the human mind, but by God himself. And God cannot change, and so truth cannot change. And Jesus, who said, I am the way and the truth and the life. Whoever listens to my voice knows the way to the Father. Anyone committed to the truth hears my voice. He is the way to salvation. And his final words to the apostles at his ascension was, go out and teach them to carry out everything I have commanded you. So yes, we do have an obligation to warn people who are sinning that they are sinners. Fraternal correction is an obligation we have. But let's look at exactly what it is that we're obliged to do before the Lord. First, let's talk about what we're not meant to do. We're not meant to go out and be moral policemen, going into public spaces, into malls and parks and anything, and trying to find people sinning and point them out and say, you're sinning over there, you better stop that. That's what the Pharisees did, and Jesus got furious with them for that. No, the word is fraternal correction. And that word fraternal has two meanings to it. First of all, fraternal comes from the Latin word fratres, which is brother. Brotherly correction. So people with whom we have a relationship. It's not meant that we go out into the byroads and just find anybody we want, but people that we would be remiss if we were loving them if we did not give them the truth. So first of all, people to whom we have a relationship. And secondly, to do so fraternally, with love, with compassion, not blasting people's boat out of the water or anything like that if they're sinning, but lovingly telling them, what you're doing is sinful and you must not do that. And the Lord does not oblige us to make sure they stop sinning. He doesn't say that. We have a duty to tell them, but all right, we make our peace, we tell them, listen, I'm telling you, this is not good for you. You're sinning. Don't you know what you're doing is wrong? Tell them charitably and then let it go. They have to decide for themselves. The Lord never says keep hounding them until they do it right, until they finally listen. We've done our job when we have let people know that what they're doing is sinful. But people have their own lives. They are allowed to live them, and they'll ultimately be responsible for their own choices. But that's not always easy, especially when it comes to situations of beloved family members. Most especially when I think of where probably many of you may be able to relate to, grown people who have grown children who have abandoned the faith, who are not worshiping. And so often I'll hear people, other priests will say the same thing, come to us and say, Father, I'm just so upset because my children don't go to church on Sunday. Sometimes they might even say they haven't even bothered to have my grandchildren baptized. And they say, that's not what I taught them to do. I taught them to believe in Jesus, to love and follow him. What did I do wrong? And the answer is probably nothing. There's no guarantee that just because we teach our children the truth, that they're going to embrace it with their own free will and follow it. Sometimes children will reject what we teach them. It's painful to see that happen, but God has given all of us free will. And it's not automatically a parent's fault if a grown child is not worshiping anymore. And sometimes people will also say to me, Father, what can I say? What can I do to get them to go back to church? Oh, how I wish I had an answer for you. How I wish I could tell you, just say this or just do that, and they will automatically love the Lord again and follow him. I could save the world if I had that answer. No, everybody has to choose the Lord on their own. We can witness to them. We can show them the difference Christ makes in our lives, but we can't force them to follow him. So while I cannot tell you just do this and it will work, I can tell you a couple of things that I would say never do. One is to nag, to constantly bring it up to them over and over again. Every time you call them, like you call them on a Sunday afternoon and see how they're doing. So, did you go to church today? Well, one of these is, I can't wait till the day comes that I'm finally going to call and you're going to tell me, yes, Mom, I went to church today. Okay? It's got to be from their free will. If you nag them, maybe they'll start going just to keep you quiet, but it's not coming from their heart, and it's not going to have value. Even forcing them to have the grandchildren baptized, they may be doing it just to keep you quiet, but it's not in their heart, and the children are not going to be raised in the faith. So by all means, if you have somebody who is not following the faith, maybe you have a child who is not married validly, is living in a sinful situation, or is dating somebody that you don't approve of, that you think he or she is not the right person for your child, do you have the right to say something to them? Absolutely. Not only the right, but the duty. Let them know, charitably, calmly, hey, I don't approve of this. I don't think this person is right for you. Think it through beforehand, but then let it go. Maybe you might discover you were wrong. You thought this person, it would be a disaster, and they end up having a beautiful marriage. Or if it turns out that something does go sour, then they could at least turn to you and say, well, Mom, Dad, I guess you were right. I should have listened to you. And in other situations, all right, you've told them what they're doing you don't approve of, but let them live their own life and keep the communication lines open to them. Nagging them will only make them either do it just to keep you quiet, and it won't be in their hearts, or they may be so spiteful that even if something happens that they want to return to church, they won't do it just because they don't want to give you the satisfaction of being right. Sometimes they can be very stubborn with that. So by all means, tell your children, anybody else, other family members, whoever it may be, how you feel charitably, and then leave it there and pray for them. Sometimes maybe things may work for your benefit in the long run. Down the line. Maybe they will come to see the truth of what you're saying, and they would be more likely to accept it and turn to you for guidance on that if you have not been nagging them about it all along. So wait for the right moment. It could be maybe your child goes off to a doctor and all of a sudden gets a medical diagnosis that they don't particularly like. And it frightens them a little bit. And they say, you know, Mom, Dad, I'm really scared about having this, what it's going to mean. And that could be the perfect opportunity for you to say, well, you see, that's where my faith in Jesus comes in. Why, as I worship him, he's there for me, because I know I can pray to him and ask him to take it away from me if he will. But if not, I know he'll be with me each and every step of the way, no matter what I have to suffer through this illness. And I know I'm not alone. The Lord is there. And then they may be in a moment where they're receptive to the message. And that may make them decide that they want to return to the Lord and worship him again. So tell them how you feel and then let it go and pray for them. And the other thing that I would say never, ever do is threaten them. If you don't have those kids baptized, I will write you out of my life. I will never talk to you again. You're dead to me. That accomplishes absolutely nothing. In fact, it gives absolutely no hope that maybe down the line they might actually listen to us. Sometimes, yes, it's painful to watch somebody do something of which we don't approve and have to still love them afterwards. I saw that happen in my family this past year when one of my nieces got married a year ago, and to my surprise, she did not get married in church. And when I first heard that, I had to say to her, I said, you realize as a priest, I cannot attend your wedding? I said, I am not allowed to attend the wedding of a Catholic who is marrying invalidly. I can't even go there. And my parents had said, well, we're not going to go to that either. And she understood it. She says, well, I respect your opinion on that. She didn't hold it against us. But when we see her after that, I still will text her. I'll call her, especially on her birthday. I'll give her a gift. We see her for holidays or something. We're welcoming and friendly. Her new husband, civilly, we welcome him with full affection and everything. She knows very well. We've made our case with her. She knows how we stand, yet she knows our love continues, and we will never deny that. And then hopefully, maybe one day her faith will reawaken and she'll call me and say, Uncle, I'd like to be married in the church. Would you receive our vows? And I'd be thrilled to be able to do that. It can be hard, I know, because we wish we could be able to just say the right thing or do something and change the world. But the Lord is, changing the world means getting people to follow him of their free will. And that you and I cannot force. We can only encourage and pray for them. So yes, we do have a responsibility to those around us, if they're doing something sinful or whatever it may be, to point it out to them, but do so lovingly, charitably, make our case, and then continue the relationship with them and pray for them, that one day they will come to see the truth of what the Lord is teaching them, that will lead them to union with him, so that they will find salvation in his kingdom, which the Lord suffered and died to bring to each and every one of us. May Jesus Christ be praised, now and forever.